upgrading to the RX3i PLC system from the LM90 on the Cyber AT saw. You will need to order a SB208-A kit from MiTek. This kit will also include an SB221 kit, plus a separate order for a desktop computer. Enclosed will be service bulletins that contains written instructions on the installation for both SB kits, and the list of parts that come in the SB kits. The SB kits do not include the computer or instructions for the computer replacement. This video is to help you step through the instructions. It is not intended to replace them. The items you will need to have on hand are a lockout-tagout mechanism, masking tape and a pen, a Phillips and slotted screwdriver, a hand drill, a 2.5-inch hole saw or hole punch, a number 29 drill bit, plus an 832 tap handle, and electrical multimeter. First, in semi-auto mode, touch the All Home icon, then the Initiate Setup icon. The machine will take all the axes to their home positions. For the ease of calibration, go to the manual screen and write down these positions. This is the only screen that will show you the position for all the axes, and writing them down now will make it easier to recalibrate the machine after the upgrade. From the main menu, go to the PLC screen and write down the PLC software version. Go back to the main menu and touch Shutdown. When asked to confirm, touch Yes. Once it has completely shut down, pull the main disconnect switch on the stationary end electrical panel to the off position, and properly do a lockout-tagout procedure on the machine. Locate the panel or disconnect in your plant that the incoming power to the machine comes from, and properly do a lockout-tagout procedure on it. This photo is just one example of one type of disconnect. Push in an E-stop on the machine and leave it pushed in until instructed to pull it out. Open the stationary end electrical panel and, with the multimeter, verify that the power is off. Once verified, follow the instructions in SB221, which are also demonstrated here. Unplug the end-to-end PLC interconnecting cable from the stationary end and carriage ends. Remove all the cable ties from the cable on the flat cable tray on top of the yellow guard and flexible cable track. Remove the old cable. Regardless of how the cable was routed before, route it on the outfeed side of the cable tray and track. Here is a cross-section example of the tray and track and how the cable should be routed. Keep it away from the three-phase cables that also run down the tray and track. If you do have to cross the three-phase cables, cross them at 90 degrees. Any other angle may result in extensive electrical damage. You will now have to add holes to both enclosures before you install the new cable. Here is where the hole needs to be located on both enclosures. Cover all the electrical components with cloth or plastic on the inside of the enclosure to keep any metal drill chips off of them. With a 2.5-inch hole saw, drill from the outside to the inside of the enclosure at the point shown on the drawing, or use a hole punch. Be careful not to hit any electrical components. Thread one end of the end-to-end cable through the new hole on the stationary end, and from the outside of the enclosure to the inside, and through the nut for the new cable grommets. Pull in enough cable to plug in at the same location as the old cable did. Do not plug it in yet, as other new cables will be installed later with a new RX3i upgrade. Place one of the supplied fittings around the cable on the outside of the enclosure and insert the grommets, placing the cable through the grommet with a hole in it. Snap the two halves of the fitting together. Fasten the fitting to the enclosure as shown by using the nut on the inside of the enclosure. Run the new cable down the outside edge of the flat cable tray as shown, and through the flexible track. Again on the outside edge until it exits at the orange arm. Use the new cable ties to hold it in place on the flat tray and where it exits the flexible track to help keep it away from the three-phase cables. At the carriage end enclosure, insert the cable through the new hole in the carriage end enclosure and secure the cable following the same procedure for the cable fittings and grommets as was used on the stationary end. Route the cable inside the carriage end enclosure to the same location as the old cable was connected. For the RX3i upgrade, you will be replacing the top PLC rack backplane, some major components, interconnecting cables, and the desktop computer. The steps demonstrated here are also found in SB208-A. Label these modules 1 through 6 as shown. Disconnect the yellow Ethernet cable from the CPU. Disconnect the green ground wire from the CPU. And disconnect the other end of the wire and discard it. It is not needed with the new system. Disconnect the Profibus cable from the module. If you have an auxiliary battery module on the side of the enclosure, remove it. Disconnect the red, white, and green wires from the PLC power supply. To remove a module, push up on the release lever on the bottom of the module. Wider modules have 2 release levers that have to be pushed at the same time. Firmly pull the bottom of the module towards you, and then lift the module up. Remove all of the modules one by one from right to left, letting them hang carefully. Loosen the screws from the I/O expansion cable and disconnect it from the backplane. Remove the screws from the top backplane and save the screws for reuse. Remove the backplane and discard. Use the new backplane as a template and mark the 2 top holes to indicate where to drill and tap new holes. Drill and tap the new holes using the number 29 drill bit and the 832 tap. Using the old screws, mount the new backplane and mark the 2 bottom holes. Remove the backplane and drill and tap the 2 bottom holes and remount the backplane. The slots are numbered from left to right. To install the modules, hold the module firmly, align the module with the correct slot and connector. Engage the module's rear pivot hook in the notch on the top of the backplane. Swing the module down until the module's connector engages the backplane connector. And release the lever on the bottom of the module and snap it into place. Install the new PLC power supply in slots 0 and 1. Locate the wires disconnected from the old power supply. Connect the red wire to terminal plus L1, the white wire to terminal N, and the green wire to ground. If the on-off switch is in the off position, press the switch to on. Mount the energy pack. It has no slot. It connects to the left side of the power supply, similar to how the modules connect to the backplane. Connect the cable from the energy pack to the CPU as shown, and install the CPU in slot 2. Attach the 2 brackets supplied at the bottom of the module to the brackets on the backplane with the 2 screws. Install the Profibus master in slot 3. For the modules that you marked 1 through 6, mount them in order in slots 4 through 9. Install the expansion transmitter module as shown in slot 12. Install the 2 blank modules in slots 10 and 11. Reconnect the yellow Ethernet cable to the CPU as shown. Connect the purple Profibus cable to the Profibus master. Remove the old rack-to-rack interconnecting cable that went from the top rack to the bottom rack on the far right-hand side of the racks. Take one of the new interconnecting cables and plug the one-sided end onto the new expansion transmitter module on the top PLC rack in slot 12. Plug the two-sided end onto the PLC rack on the bottom. This cable is now called interconnect number 1. Plug the new end-to-end cable onto the open port of interconnect number 1. On the carriage end, remove the old interconnecting rack-to-rack cables and the old terminator resistor on the far right-hand side of the racks. Position the 2 supplied spacer nuts as shown, and plug the new end-to-end cable onto the one-sided end of the new interconnecting cable. Plug the two-sided end of that cable onto the end of the top PLC rack. This cable is now called interconnect number 2. Plug the one-sided end of the last new interconnecting cable onto the open port of interconnect number 2 on the top PLC rack. Plug the two-sided end onto the far right-hand side of the bottom PLC rack. This cable is now called interconnect number 3. Plug the new termination resistor onto the open port of interconnecting number 3 on the bottom PLC rack. Clean both enclosures of all debris. Replace the desktop computer and plug the USB drive holding the Simplicity license that came with the new computer into a USB port in the back of it. Do not network the new computer to your office until it is determined that the RX3 upgrade is working properly. Remove the lockout-tagout mechanisms and turn on the main disconnect and power up the touchscreen. Verify the following on the Profibus Master. The Profibus OK LED is green. The Network LED is yellow. The MOD Status LED is on. Verify the following on the PLC CPU. The OK light is green. The RN Run light is green. The EN Enable light is green. And the System Fault light, labeled SYS FLT, is off. If you receive unexplained errors, check the condition of the pins described in the Service Bulletin SB208-A. Follow the shutdown and lockout-tagout procedure before checking the pins. You can also find an overview of the PLC indicators in SB208-A. Now verify that the PLC version number has been changed from the one you wrote down at the beginning of this procedure. It is shown on the PLC screen accessed from the home screen. Next is to transfer the necessary defaults. Failure to follow these steps will result in blade collisions and incorrect cuts. From the main menu, touch Defaults. At this screen, put in your blade sizes. Make sure that Imperial and 90-degree square are highlighted. Now touch Speeds at the bottom of the screen. On the next screen, touch Advanced at the bottom of the screen. And on the next screen, touch Speeds at the bottom. On this screen, touch the top rectangle labeled Angle Speeds. Just touch the heading Angle 1, Angle 2, and so on. Even if they already have numbers in them, this will automatically transfer the default speeds. When you are done with all the angles, touch Previous Screen at the bottom and repeat for each button on the Speed Settings screen. When finished with the speed settings, go to Main Menu and then Calibration. Calibrate the saw. Refer to your equipment manual for calibration instructions if necessary. Pull out the E-stop button when finished with calibration. In the semi-auto mode, touch the cleaning position icon. When it shows all axes are in position, it is working correctly and the new computer can be networked to your office.